and bought over by Bank of Africa in 2011. The bank at the moment has assets of about 2 billion, deposits about 1 billion, shareholders funds about 600 billion. We have 600 million. We have 26 branches and we have about 350 staff. Bank of Africa was bought by the Bank of Africa Group in 2011, and Bank of Africa Group is a Moroccan bank, Pan-African bank. We are in about 21 countries in Africa. It was started in 1982. It was formed by a French national who was one of the financial advisors to Ofebuain and thought that there was a need for a Pan-African bank. So very similar to what we are trying to do. So he started in Mali. The bank now has 640 branches. It has equity of 675 million euro, assets of 7.8 billion euro, deposits of about 5.2. In 2011, the group of friends that started Bank of Africa basically ran out of capacity to grow the group further. So they went into collaboration and sold to a Moroccan bank, which is the 12th largest bank in Africa. The bank is now called BMC Bank of Africa. BMC Bank of Africa is in 32 countries, Africa, Spain, Europe, Asia, and Morocco. It has about 14,800 staff. We have 6 million customers, asset base of 34 billion euro, deposits of 21 billion euro, equity of 2.6 billion euro. Its BMC Bank of Africa is 60 years old, and its aim is the aim of the founder of BMC Bank of Africa is to plant a flag of Bank of Africa in every country in Africa in the next 20 years. Because of the geographical location of Morocco, the bank seeks to be the trade bank of Africa. I mean, if we have 21 banks on the continent and you are bordering Africa and Europe, of course, you are a bridge between Europe and the continent. So the aim is to be the trade bank. But in doing that, we also have a key goal to grow SMEs. We have personal banking, so we do asset finance, mortgage, personal loans, and we are also very huge in corporate banking. So we do a lot of structured finance for our corporates. So with this, I will hand over back to Letitia, and I hope we enjoy and participate actively in these seminars, webinars that we'll be organizing. Thank you very much.
Mr. Anda, thank you very much for the introduction for today's webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, my name is Letitia Brown. I'm going to be hosting this evening's event. Well, evening for us here in Accra, it's 6 p.m. We have people tuned in from all over the world today. So I'm sure for some of you it may be morning, for some of you it may be afternoon. But either way, you are welcome. I think that the story of Bank of Africa is a really inspiring story to kick off this program today. Anytime that I hear it, I always get inspired. And I'm sure all of you financiers or bankers out there now have an idea of what is possible on the continent. So today we're discussing a very important topic, and a topic that's very close to my heart personally. We're talking about Ghana, an ideal location for diaspora investment. And on this note, I'd like to invite our special guest and the next speaker, Mr. Robert Custon. He's actually known very fondly as chairman. And I'm sure when you hear him speak in a couple of minutes, you will understand why we all refer to him as chairman. But he's really the pinnacle and the idea and the brain behind this diaspora network, of which we are hosting these webinars for over the next couple of weeks. So I'll hand it over to him. He's going to share a very short presentation with us and tell us a little bit more about the Diaspora Investment Club and the opportunities that it presents. Thank you, Robert.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. The organization you are going to be dealing with is called Global Allied Diaspora Initiatives for Africa, in short, GADIA. And this is a brief introduction that is going to follow. It's about 8 slides for me to finish. So next slide, please. Okay, great. Hello, my name is Robert Kustin. On December 31st, 2018, I retired from public duty with the US federal government of over 26 years of service with FDA branch and later on with US Department of Labor to focus my attention on Ghana and its economic growth and prosperity. A couple of us in the diaspora incorporated Alternative Solutions Foundation on October 10, 2000 as a mutual benefit corporation and a diaspora think tank investing in ideas and innovations to contribute to the socio-economic and human development programs of Ghana and Africa. Next slide, please. Through the Alternative Solutions Foundation came the idea of a group-funded diaspora monetary fund. The idea came from we always, as a country, going to IMF to send our problems to them. I thought the diaspora and the IMF, so to speak. On May 17, 2018, a WhatsApp platform was created to search for and to bring together in the diaspora group who are willing to contribute to Ghana's economic development programs by way of direct collective investments to make social impact in the lives of Ghanaians whilst making returns on our group investments, trade, and financing activity. Next slide, please. Recently, I crossed the ocean to Europe, and now we have memberships in the USA, Canada, UK, Belgium, France, and Germany. Our primary goal is to reach an initial 1,000 member unit, and each of the 1,000 members will introduce 10 new members, resulting in 10,000 members of the diaspora group as a base. Currently, US has over 230,000 diasporans, and so we want to have an inroad into that number to grow even in leaps and bounds exponentially. With a unit of 1,000 diaspora group, each contributing $120 per month, we will have a combined total funds amounting to $120,000 on a monthly basis. The 10,000 membership we seek to have can scale up to $1.2 million every month. Next slide, please. GADIA believes in the wisdom that with God and working together, humans can change their lives for the better. That the African diaspora must unite, must get organized, and become the primary investors in core Africa industries. And that Africans are capable of funding and managing their own economic affairs in partnership opportunities with the diaspora. Next slide, please. So GADIA seeks to contribute significantly toward achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, called SDGs, in areas of no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water, sanitation, affordable clean energy, decent work and economic growth, sustainable cities and communities. Next slide, please. Stewardship of GADIA mutual funds. Investors in GADIA will be members of the group-funded Diaspora Monetary Fund. GADIA's investment will include businesses that yield both social benefits and profits. Governance rules will be established for Ghana. An investment policy will govern the types of investment to be made. There will be nominated bank accounts in countries where members are based to enable members to make payments. Contributions will be channeled to the trustee bank in Ghana. Next slide, please. Registered in Ghana and in the USA and in other jurisdictions where registration may be required. Taxation will be duly paid to all relevant authorities in the jurisdiction where Gadia is registered. I want to thank you all for paying attention, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Robert. Once again, another inspiring message. Just imagine what we could do with $1.2 million coming into Ghana every month. And the fact that we already have an agenda, which includes focusing on the importance of impact and the SDGs, demonstrates that this will surely be a worthy cause and a great opportunity for Ghana. So on that note, Robert, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your introduction. We'll move on to introducing our special guests for this evening. We have two very experienced investment professionals and a former investment banker and also a current banker who works for Bank of Africa here with us this evening. Akofa Dakwa is actually the general manager for enterprise risk at the Bank of Africa, and Mr. Yofi Grant is currently the CEO of GIPC. We're going to be having presentations from them coming in very, very shortly. I don't know if you want to display their profiles or we'll just move straight on. Okay, so we're going to jump straight into some content. I'd like to encourage all of you to put your questions into the chat box as we're moving through the presentation, as we won't have an opportunity to interject, but we'll take our questions at the end of the presentations. So please do use the chat function to ask any necessary questions that you may have. And also, if you'd just like to let us know where it is that you are tuning in from today, whether you're in the US, whether you're in Europe, London. I think I had mention of the US as well. So please do let us know where you're tuning in from. So Akofa, I think on that note, I'll hand over to you. I'm sure people are very eager to get stuck into your presentation. Akofa, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay. Good evening to you all. I'm Akofa Dakwa, and I'll present the Ghanaian economy, the present situation, and medium-term outlook. Welcome once again to this webinar. So we'll look at the Ghanaian economy, and we will be delving into the key economic indicators to help you as investors in your investment decisions. Globally, Ghana has been among the 10 fastest growing economies from 2008 to date. And from the graph, we could see that Ghana is an outperformer compared to its sub-Saharan peers. And Ghana grows by approximately 6% each year. To put this in better perspective, global growth for 2020 was projected at 3.4% before COVID, but is expected to contract by 4.9% due to COVID. For sub-Saharan Africa, we expect a contraction in growth of 3.2%. And however, for Ghana, we expect to grow by 0.9%. So while other economies are decelerating, Ghana actually expects a growth. And in fact, some analysts have put this growth rate at 2.5%. Ghana's growth in recent years has been boosted due to the discovery of oil in commercial quantities in 2007. However, unlike our other oil-producing peers, Ghana's growth rate is expected to remain high in the medium term because the economy of Ghana has a relatively diverse and export base. The three main export commodities, as we know, are oil, cocoa, and gold. Others include sugar, cashew, shea nuts, rubber, bauxite, aluminium, diamonds, and manganese. So this year, for example, although demand for oil prices are low globally, Ghana is benefiting from the surge in gold prices. We know gold is seen as a safe haven, so in times when the economies are decelerating, people want to invest in gold. So due to our relatively diverse economic and export base, we are always cushioned in case of any downturns on the global market. As investors, you would want to know which particular sectors of the economy are driving this growth, so that you can make very informed investment decisions. So we'll delve right into that. So Ghana's GDP growth rate for 2019 was estimated at 6.5%, and we can see that there have been steady improvements in the non-oil GDP growth rates, which reflect the economic diversification and would ensure that we avoid the so-called oil curse. That is to ensure that the economy is not overly dependent on oil production, and so that we have other fallback options. We saw a spike in growth in 2017, and that was driven by increased crude oil production as the 10 oil fields started commercial production, and also we had relative stability in energy supply in the economy, which supported the various sectors of the economy. Growth again was high in 2019, and this was boosted strongly by the ICT, petroleum manufacturing, and real estate subsectors of the economy. This year, although we expect some declines due to COVID, the good news is that Ghana has the ability to recover from this deceleration in growth due to the diverse economic base that we have. And in addition, government has a medium-term strategy for import substitution. So currently, there have been great strides made in rice production and encouraging locals to consume local rice. We have auto assembly plants. So we have global auto companies like VW, Toyota, Nissan, assembling cars in Ghana. And all these will go to substitute our imports and make us more self-reliant. We also see government policies geared towards stimulating local demand. We have government increasingly using local contractors for government supplies and also for infrastructure development. This will go to stimulate the demand in the economy. And so in the medium term, we expect the trend in average growth rates of 6% and above to continue. The services sector has been the largest contributor to Ghana's GDP, followed by the industry and agri sectors. Now delving a bit into what each sector entails. So services is made up of trade, transport, financial services, tourism, education, ICT, and health subsectors. The industry sector is mainly made up of mining and crude oil production, light and heavy manufacturing, and construction, whilst the agri sector is made up of crops, including cocoa, livestock, forestry, and fishing. We can see that the agri sector over the years have been the lowest contributor to Ghana's GDP, although it employs the largest percentage of the population. This is because agri in Ghana has been mainly subsistence. However, the story is changing in recent times with government initiatives that are aimed at agri modernization and food sustainability. So we have government flagship projects like the Planting for Food and Jobs, Planting for exports in rural development, we have irrigation projects, we have expansion in rail and road infrastructure, and these all go to support the agri sector. And so we expect the agri sector to take its pride of place in the near future. So in 2019, the services sector grew by 7.6%, becoming the best growth performing sector in the economy. To zoom in a bit into the opportunities in this sector, we saw a 46.5% growth in the ICT sector, which is great, and a 19.9% growth in the real estate subsectors. Although the services sector has been the worst hit this year due to the COVID pandemic, in the medium term, we expect this sector to recover and continue to be the dominant contributor to Ghana's GDP. In the medium term, therefore, we see growth opportunities in financial services, in tourism, in health, and education subsectors of the services sector. The agri sector is also a sector to watch. There's a lot of potential there. Ghana has vast arable lands and the labor resources, and with the right government support like we've seen currently, this is definitely a sector you want to invest in and to watch closely. Now moving on, we would like to look at some price trends. So as investors, this will be of interest to you, obviously, as you want the assurance that if you bring in your funds, you set up certain businesses, you would have stable and low interest rates to support your business expansion. Although Ghana traditionally has had high interest rates compared to some of its peers in the sub-region, the good news is that this is changing. As we can see from the graphs, there have been a steady downtrend in interest rates since 2016, and this has been supported by a more stable currency, and generally it reflects the improvements in the economy. Lending rates of banks have also been on the decline, and this is great to support businesses to become more globally competitive. We can also see that inflation is on the downtrend. In fact, since 2018, we've seen single-digit inflation within the government's target of below 10%. So government is also committed to having a single-digit inflation. This year, this has been derailed a bit due to COVID, so inflation has risen up to about 11% currently, but it is expected to return to single digits in the medium term because we've seen investments in food production, which have started yielding positive results, and that would go to anchor low food inflation. And then also the relative exchange rate stability would go to support a low non-food inflation. Moving on to the next slide, we'll look at some exchange rate trends. So the Ghana cedi has depreciated by averagely 8% over the past years, with improvements seen in recent years. For this year, for example, we don't anticipate more than a 5 to 6% depreciation in the Ghana cedi. Year to date, we've only seen about 2.4% depreciation of the cedi. And this stability in recent years have been due to a positive trade balance. This means that Ghana actually exports more than it imports. This is a change in the story we used to know of Ghana being an import-dependent economy. So since 2017, our exports have actually exceeded our imports, and we've also seen a narrowing of the current account deficits. Obviously, the positive trade balances have contributed to this. Also, Ghanaians living in the diaspora like yourselves have also contributed to this, as remittances have been growing, and this has contributed to the narrowing of this current account deficit. The trade surpluses that we've seen also reflect a diversification of the export base in Ghana. So apart from the traditional exports, oil, cocoa, gold, we've seen an improvement in export volumes and proceeds from the non-traditional export products. In recent times, over the past 4 years, we've seen that imports have only grown by 4%, which point to some import substitution happening. We've also seen exports growing by a whopping 40%. If this trend continues, we should see more positive trade surpluses and a possible current account surplus. Although Ghana's current account position is in deficit currently, this is typical of fast-growing economies because of the massive investments that are coming in into the economy. But this points to future growth because these investments are being made in very productive sectors of the economy like oil and gas, mining, ICT, manufacturing, etc. Moving to the next slide, we'll talk a bit about government fiscal operations. Another key economic indicator is government's budget financing. That is how well the country is generating revenues and what the expenditures are being used for and whether there's a deficit. The fiscal deficit in Ghana has been a challenge over the years due to low domestic revenue generation, especially from taxation. So we've generally had low tax to GDP ratios compared to some of our peers and compared to the advanced economies. Meanwhile, government expenditures have to go on. Government needs to spend for infrastructure, for social services, for workers' remuneration, etc. We can, however, see a commitment from the government to changing this situation with the current digitalization agenda being pursued. And this will go to widen the tax bracket, especially bring in more people from the informal sector to contribute to the tax net. And then the digitalization would also ensure greater accountability in government financing. Some progress was being made in the fiscal consolidation before COVID. So there was a recent legislation which bars government from having a deficit of more than 5% of its GDP, and that was being adhered to. In addition, government was having what we call a primary fiscal surplus position. That is, revenues actually were more than expenditures if you take out debt servicing. And we expect, although this year, this has been derailed a bit because of COVID, deficit for this year is expected at 11.4%. However, we expect deficit positions to fall within the fiscal cap of 5% in the medium term. We'll now look at government debt trends. And so we just saw that we have a deficit position, meaning government has to borrow to cover these deficits. The debt to GDP ratios, which are high in recent years, have also been a challenge for government. Currently, it stands at 62% of GDP. In recent years, however, the debt has been used to finance energy sector investments, the cost of financial sector reforms, which was massive, and general infrastructural investment. The good thing is that majority of these government expenditures recently have been in areas of industrialization. We have government programs like the One District, One Factory. Agric modernization is being to improve irrigation in the economy, to ensure stable power supply, to increase the road infrastructure and railway infrastructure network so the country opens up, and these are good in the medium term. And so this is one of the reasons why we need Ghanaians living in the diaspora to come and invest in this economy, so we can reduce government dependence on external debts and its associated risk. We have seen that the government is conscious of this high debt levels and has put in place some risk mitigants to avoid a debt distress. Okay, so in recent times, we've seen the lengthening of the debt maturity tenors. So the recent Eurobond that was issued had one of the tranches for 41-year tenor, which is the first for any African country. Even our local domestic bonds have tenors up to 20 years, and government also have been replacing more expensive debts with cheaper options, as well as setting debt ceilings for government agencies and conducting a yearly debt sustainability analysis. So in the latest debt sustainability analysis that was performed points to the fact that Ghana's debts, although high, are sustainable. And in the medium term, we expect GDP levels to hover around 60%, as any levels above this will be unsustainable. But with the legislation in place and the accountability in public finance, we expect this to be achieved. We'll now move on to look briefly at the impact of COVID-19 on the economy of Ghana. So the revised targets all point to the extent of the economic impact. We started the year hoping to achieve a GDP of about 6.8%. This has been revised to 0.9%. Inflation was in single digits. It's been revised to 11.1%. Fiscal deficits were below 5%. Now it's been revised to 11.4%. This indicates the extent of the economic impact of the COVID pandemic. And the pandemic has impacted revenues with revenue shortfalls of 13.4 billion, increase in expenditures of 11.8 billion, and that has resulted in an increase in deficits of 25.3 billion. And this deficit will be funded from both external and internal sources. So externally, we have support from the World Bank, the IMF, and the African Development Bank. Internally, we have our own central bank putting in place this asset purchase program. And then we also have funding from the Ghana Stabilization Fund. The sectors that have been most hardly hit are the hospitality and tourism, energy, sports, food, and transport sectors. But refreshingly, government and the central bank have put in place some measures in response to this pandemic. So government's measures have been geared towards supporting businesses to access financing to recover. So we have a 2 billion guarantee scheme in place for large businesses, so they can borrow from banks for longer tenors and more cheaply. We have a support through the National Board for Small Scale Industries for small businesses. So there's a fund of 600 million cedis set aside to support small businesses recover from this pandemic. And the central bank measures have been aimed at reducing interest rates and making more capital and liquidity available to boost lending to the productive sectors of the economy. Ghana is also taking a more long-term view in COVID-related spending. So in dealing with the health infrastructure challenges, for instance, 111 new hospitals in every district and in every regional capital are being built, and this would help us prepare for any future emergencies. And there's support, like I've mentioned, for businesses, financing support for businesses to recover from the effects of the pandemic. So in summary, I would talk about the key opportunities and threats to the medium-term outlook for the economy. I would first deal with the threats because most of the opportunities tend to address what these threats are. So we have the accumulation of new debts due to COVID-related spending as one of our threats. The large foreign participation in the local debt market resulting in foreign exchange vulnerabilities. We have high debt to GDP ratios, fiscal deficit, high interest rates, and a low tax to GDP ratio. The opportunities, obviously the high growth rates, Ghana being among the 10 fastest growing economies in the whole world. That is great opportunity for investors to invest in this well-diversified economy. The deepening of the domestic institutional investor base currently, so that we are not overly reliant on the external debt market. The digitalization agenda, which will improve revenues and help us to control our deficits, and the positive trade balances, the growth in our exports, and the expansion and diversification in our export products, and the increase in capitalization of banks. Recently, banks were recapitalized and so have the muscle to support local industries to drive growth. And then there are several legislative reforms to promote ease of doing business and public financial management. So in conclusion, I would strongly recommend Ghana to you as a good investment destination. You all have very diverse and rich backgrounds. You have seen better and more efficient ways of doing things in your various endeavors, and therefore you should tap into the growing opportunities in this economy. And on the other hand, we at Bank of Africa are here to support you. Like my managing director already said, we are a strong group of professionals. We have the backing of a strong, great parent to support you, and then we are also known as the best bank in advisory services in the industry. Thank you. And over to you, Letitia.
Akofa, thank you very much for that fantastic presentation. We covered a lot of bases already, but there's still a lot more to go. Akofa, I'm really going to ask you to dig a little bit deeper on some of the points that you were making. I'm having an assumption here. I mean, we have over 100 people on the line from Europe, from the United States. I'm seeing New Jersey, I'm seeing Paris, a number of different countries and cities. But I'm also making the assumption that we have a combination here of professional investors, individuals that are interested in setting up businesses, in Ghana. So therefore, we may need to bring it down a little bit. So I'm going to be asking you some questions around, what does it really mean for an individual investor to invest in the fastest growing economy? We're talking about local content laws, legislation and policy that's going to be ensuring that local contractors are getting access to infrastructure projects and so forth. I heard you speaking about agriculture being the lowest contributor to GDP, but employing the most people. What kind of investment opportunity does that present? Also, just thinking about the points that you were making around interest rates. Now, we're looking at double digits here in Ghana. For people that are based in the US, maybe in the UK, they're used to single digit in interest rates on business loans. So how maybe you could actually explain a little bit about, you know, what the challenge is there with us being in a developing economy. So we have some questions lined up for you, Akofa, which I'm sure that you'll handle pretty well. And the questions are also coming in thick and fast from the participants. A lot of questions for you too, Robert, on the structuring around the Diaspora Investment Club. So maybe you'd want to also take a look at the chat box and get prepared for question time. So I'd now like to hand over to our final speaker for today, Mr. Yofi Grant. He's the CEO of GIPC. The Ghana Investment Promotion Council. Mr. Grant, are you ready to take over the mic? I think we have to unmute him.
Yes, very good evening to you all, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me for that. I'm actually out of town, so out of Accra, so I'm sure you'll be seeing some strange things on my internet connection, but that's fine. I do have a presentation which I would like to go through, and I believe that you have it with you, Letitia. So I have this presentation which I've entitled The 3 O's: Opportunity, Openness, and Optimism. And that is the way I describe the Ghana opportunity, or the Ghana story, as I say. That it symbolizes, or it's characterized by 3 O's: opportunity, openness, and optimism. So I'll just quickly go through to explain what they mean and to see how they relate to the investor. But the next slide, if you can go on to the next slide, is actually a video which I would love all of you to watch, because it shows Ghana what the opportunity was pre-COVID. Yes.
Located at the center of the world, Ghana is the best investment destination in West Africa and ranks as West Africa's first in the Ease of Doing Business Report 2019. It was projected as one of the fastest growing economies in the world, the growth rate of 6.8% in 2019, and has been declared as Africa's new bright spot after being ranked 4th in the world and 1st in Africa in the 2019 Global Retail Development Index. As the host of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Ghana is creating the linkages that will make it the gateway to Africa, aided by dynamic policies, a stable political environment, and strong economic fundamentals. It is a land of opportunities, offering businesses across many sectors the potential to flourish. The country is open and accessible to investors and the private sector, providing a peaceful environment and upholding the rule of law. The government of Ghana is confident and optimistic about the positive results in its investment drive through the GIPC. Ghana has 8 million hectares of arable land, well irrigated by a wide network of water bodies, making it a region ready for large-scale mechanized agriculture. The government and major policy planners recognize that expanding the agro-industrial base is the best path to develop. Ghana has put in place the right legal and regulatory framework to increase foreign direct investment. The Industrial Zones Program allows manufacturers and agro-processors to take advantage of favorable tax and duty incentives to produce for exports from Ghana into the EU and US markets. A rich cultural history and wonderful natural beauty makes Ghana a great tourist destination. The Year of Return Tourism and Marketing campaign in 2019 positioned Ghana as a key travel and investment destination for African Americans and people of the global diaspora. The year recorded significant increases in the number of visitors to Ghana. Ghana's growing consumer market is providing compelling reasons for investing in the services sector. The retail sector has been valued at $24.4 billion. A growing middle class with increasing purchasing power is creating demand for a wider variety of sophisticated services in healthcare, finance, and education. In the region, Ghana has one of the highest mobile penetration rates at 140%, with data penetration at 89%. The country has a thriving startup scene, helped by access to broadband internet that runs on fiber optic and 4G networks. The fintech industry is worth over $50 billion. Ghana is an English-speaking nation located in the center of the geographical world, with flight times from Europe or America averaging about 8 hours. Transportation networks in and out of the country have received enhancements in order to aid the ease of doing business. It has a new international airport terminal and an expanded port infrastructure. Tema Port is one of the largest in Africa, with a capacity to handle 3.5 million TEUs. The expansion in the economy is largely due to oil and gas development. Other sustainable sources of power, like solar, wind, and thermal, will significantly increase the country's energy resources. We invite you to share in Ghana's optimism, be part of the incredible opportunities we offer, and be open to the idea to grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana.
Thank you very much. And the next slide, please. So, let's keep it going. So I believe that over the past 10 years, the African story has changed from the traditional stories that we knew about Africa, where Africa was seen as the dark continent. But guess what? The World Bank, the IMF have indicated that over the past 10 years, out of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world, 7 of them are from Africa. So there is a new narrative and there's a new opportunity that is emerging. And I like to believe that Ghana is spearheading that development and that new narrative, and the bad perceptions are now being replaced by stories of recovery, opportunity, and growth potential. And along with that also goes a significant investment potential. Can we have the next slide, please? So let me just go on to envelope a few of the opportunities that we have. First of all, Ghana, like most of Africa, is resource rich. We are the largest gold producer in Africa today, the second largest global producer of cocoa, fourth largest oil producing country in Africa, and we have significant metal resources and metal and mineral resources. For example, bauxite, iron ore, manganese, lithium, oil and gas, diamonds and timber, and many other more. And we have over 13 million acres of suitable arable land for agriculture. But some of our development agendas and policies have positioned us to move from an economy that was predicated on the export of raw materials and resources to one of value addition production and productivity. And in accordance with that, we've actually upskilled our education base right from the very beginning. So we do have what we call the free secondary high school education, such that in the medium term, would have the average Ghanaian having the lowest education level of high school, such that they can grow to participate in a more challenging, more competitive and higher paying economy of production and productivity. But even relative to many other countries in West Africa now, we do have a very competitive labor pool and one of the most competitive minimum wages in West Africa. We also do have one of the highest literacy rates in the sub-region, and we have a growing population that is probably outstripped by the growth in the middle class and consumer market. Our population growth rate is about 2.2%, and as the video did indicate, that we are number 1 and number 4 in the world of the Global Retail Development Index, and we have an estimated retail market of $24 billion, but expected to grow to some $35 billion in the medium term. Can you do the next slide, please? So as I did indicate, on the back of a new paradigm or a new agenda of a Ghana Beyond Aid, we have shifted the focus of our economy on the export of raw materials and resources to one on production and value addition for export. And if you look at, I can give you one example why. If you look at cocoa, for example, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire produce about 67% of the total cocoa output in the world. Now, at best, every year, that is an economy of about $8 billion. But if you look at the value addition of that, the raw beans, and you consider the chocolate industry alone, that's easily $140 billion a year. So on the policy of value addition, we decided that we should add value to our cocoa. So Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire are looking to add value to their cocoa, and together hoping that we only would export about 40% of the total cocoa beans and add value to at least 60% of it. Some of our opportunities are in the fast-moving consumer goods space because of a growing middle class, and then also in real estate, transportation, financial services. But I'll just like to highlight a few others. So if you can quickly just go to the next slide, please. Our priority sectors over the past 3 years have been energy, I won't expand on it because of time, infrastructure, agro-processing, tourism, manufacturing. Now, the manufacturing is based on a policy initiative we have called the One District, One Factory, where each district, each of the 260 districts in Ghana, would have a manufacturing or value addition facility. Now, that is definitely a strategy, first of all, to reposition Ghana as a hub for West Africa, but also to facilitate job creation across the country. And on the back of that, we have also another agenda to set up an industrial park in each of the 16 regions that we do have. Now, some of the initial concepts are around automotive industry, pharmaceuticals, textiles, cocoa processing, oil and gas, and the fertilizer sector, the petroleum and gas sector as well. But there are others that are going to come up. In fact, we are even looking to expand the boundaries such that we involve some soft economies like the education opportunity and the health opportunity. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, I said the first slide of the O was opportunities. The second is one of openness. Now, openness because we really do engage. And we do engage with our investors, the constituencies which we have, and this platform for one is one of the engagement efforts that we have, that we like to constantly talk to the possible investor universe, both internally and externally, and work together to create an enviable business experience or investment experience in Ghana. And this is in accordance to the president's desire or vision of making Ghana a hub for West Africa, but also in the medium term to make Ghana one of the best places to do business in Africa. And we hold very dear and strong to our development agenda and a strong desire for the achievement of the SDGs in our development agenda. And I have constantly said that if you come to Africa, all our development objectives are really derived from what is now termed as the SDGs. And so for us, these form the core of our development agenda to the extent that Ghana has been the first country. This is an example that has been very well commended by the UNDP, the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO, and ITC, and the World Economic Forum. And there is a belief that most other countries should adopt the same strategy. Can we kindly go on, please? But one of the, I must have emphasized that the reason why Ghana remains a very attractive investment destination is that first of all, God gifted us the position of being in the center of the world. Ghana is the only country that has latitude 0 and longitude 0. No other country is anywhere near close. So we are plumb in the middle of the world, and that in itself makes us a very good location for logistics movement in the world. But maybe the enviable, should I say, quality that endears us to most investors is the fact that we have a very stable political environment. And that is a key foundation for key criterion for almost any investor, that there must be stability, and that enables them to plan. And also the fact that we strongly embrace the rule of law. And we were measured to have one of the best judicial systems in the world, as measured by rule of law by the World Justice Projects in 2019. And so we do definitely hold ourselves with great pride that we are politically stable. And we are also gradually progressing on the ease of doing business. And so we have significant attention and policy frameworks to enable us climb up the ease of doing business. And we are also known as extremely peaceful. We are currently in the middle of significant reforms, both on the economy, the ease of doing business, and the business sector and the investment climate. And in accordance with that, government has formed the Private Sector Consultative Forum, which engages with the private sector and comes out with a formulation of policies that will inure to our mutual benefit. We'll go to the next slide. Now, beyond that openness too, government's real drive now on developing agenda is that we develop policies that are human and people-centric. And therefore, almost all the policies that we have, whether it's one district, one factory, planting for food and jobs, the free SHS, one village, one dam, rearing for food and jobs, are very people-centered and really go to the core of the populace. The intention is that whilst these are developmental issues, they also create opportunity for jobs, because we recognize that the major problem of African youth is jobs. And therefore, having an economy that facilitates job creation and creates opportunity is very, very important. But apart from that, when the government came in 2017, it saw the critical importance of establishing discipline in the management of the public purse. So actually passed or embraced what we call the Financial Management Act, the Financial Responsibilities Act, to ensure that, first of all, we do not spend, we do not have a deficit that is 5%, above 5% of GDP, to ensure that there is discipline in the expenses side of the budget. But also we have what we call the PFM, Public Financial Management Act, which imbues certain responsibilities of people who are considered to be responsible in the management of government budget, and will hold them to account for expenses which do not lie right in the focus of the public or beyond the law. So we are open, very open, and we engage. And we believe that that engagement is bringing much better discipline to the economy and ensuring that we have sustainable and irreversible growth in the economy. And were it not for the COVID pandemic, Ghana's economy was projected to be the fastest growing in the world. And indeed, I did hear Kofa mention some of the comparables. Yes, the world economy was projected to grow at 3.3% this year. But with COVID and the effects of COVID, we are likely to see it actually shrink to a minus 3.3%. And in ECOWAS and Sub-Saharan Africa, we are seeing similar comparables where the 2.6% in ECOWAS is now somewhere around minus 3.4%. But if you look at the Ghana economy, because of a certain fundamental robustness that we established, despite the ravages of COVID, our economy will grow from the projected 6.8 to 0.9. I mean, there will still be some positive growth despite the fact that it's been hit. And we will not suffer the retrogression that many other countries have suffered. The current focus is on a recovery of the economy to the levels where it can re-establish its growth paradigms and its growth platforms. Therefore, currently, government's efforts are to protect lives and livelihoods and has implemented projects that will ensure that. Can we go to the next slide, please? I feel that it's important to mention this because primarily the Ghana Beyond Aid mantra is what gives us the, should I say, the spiritual and philosophical ethos of developing our agenda for growth as an economy. And I did say that since independence, most of economies in Africa have been predicated on the export of mineral resources and raw materials. And those sort of economic activities have not augured well in bringing about wealth on the continent. I mean, I look at Africa and I say potentially the richest piece of God's real estate in the world, but yet has the poorest people. And that is because of the sort of economies we run. So in January 2017, our president, Nana Akufo-Addo, declared that Ghana economy will grow as a Ghana Beyond Aid, where we are not going to accept gifts and handouts from developed countries as part of a budgetary process, but we shall engage with investors and business people in partnership and use our own strength and energies to grow their economies. We have the resources. And so there is absolutely no reason that if we add value to those resources, we will operate at the higher end of the value chain of the commerce and supply chain instead of being at the very bottom. And so that is what has inspired us to take very aggressive positions in growing our economy. And I hope that the rest of Africa will embrace this attitude because then we will see a different Africa in the medium to long term. Next slide, please. Now, to break the Ghana Beyond into practicable, understandable means, what we really mean is that the Ghana Beyond Aid will be building what we call the wiser society, wiser as compared to where before. And wiser really means a wealthy people, inclusive of all those who partner with us to grow a sustainable economy with an empowered people that is resilient. And resilient to world shocks because we are currently almost commodity driven and so very susceptible to global shocks, but also better prepared to confront the growth in the world. So can we go on to the next slide? Optimism. Now, the third O, I would say, is optimism, but I will not really go through it because I think Akofa did mention most of the things that had happened. But whilst by the end of 2016, Ghana's economy had actually slowed down to a growth rate of 2.6%, despite being an oil-producing country. Some of the reforms and strong fiscal consolidation in the first year after 2016 reversed the downward growth of the economy. So by 2016, our economic growth was 3.6%, but by 2017, it had shot up to 8.1% over that year, and that was one of the fastest growing economies in the world. By 2018, it grew up to about 6.3%. In 2019, we grew at 6.3%. Pre-COVID, we're looking to grow the economy at 6.8%, 7.3 as predicted the World Bank, IMF, but we've seen a rapid decline globally, and so we think we'll grow at 0.9%. But almost all the macroeconomic indicators that were pointing south were stabilized and started pointing north. We had a drop in the deficit from 9.3 to just about 5. Inflation was down from about 16% to 7.8. COVID, with the advent of the COVID pandemic, we've shot up slightly to about 11%. And for the first time in many years, we started having positive trade balances after 2017. And some very positive things have happened in Ghana. which have given us the confidence that we will grow the economy. One of them, of course, is a rapid transformation of the economy to growth. And then some of the very important things that happen, like the year of the return. The year of return sort of re-established Ghana as some sort of mecca for Africans in the diaspora to relate back to the continent, and celebrated the 400th year of the landing of the first slave ship in Jamestown in Virginia, which allegedly just had 20 slaves that were from Ghana. And last year celebrated the 400th year. And for us, it was a sounding board and a reminder of a never again, but also not to overstretch it, but to retie the umbilical cord between us in Africa today and Africans in diaspora. That they are still part of us and Africa is home, and that to bring them back. And for example, if you look at the African-American economy alone in the US, that has a spending power of over $1.3 trillion. Even if just 10% of that was spent in Africa, it will be a significant fillip to our investment efforts or our development efforts. But that is not just there. I mean, you look at the Caribbeans, you look at the rest of Europe, you look at the rest of Asia and all the Africans there. If they were to contribute and relink with the continent, it will augur all for all of us, and we will create a vibrant economy. But I would probably just cut short the presentation because it's pretty long, but there are some very key things that I ought to say. That Ghana has this ambition of being a hub for West Africa. And in accordance with many of the successes that we've pulled in the past 3 years, we were able, I haven't finished the presentation, but I just, if you can put it back. We were able to get some good pictures of what had happened. But we are a microcosmic example of Africa. And by 2050, Africa will be 1/4 of the world's population. It will be bigger than China, it will be bigger than India. But it will still have more than 30% of the world's remaining resources, including gold, oil, lithium, bauxite, iron ore, copper, and many other minerals. So Africa in itself is very well positioned to be a sort of trigger for the next wave of global growth post-COVID. But even apart from that, Africa will still have 60% of the world's remaining arable lands. So apart from having the resources for world growth, it could also potentially feed the world, but also provide the labor for the world, because 60% of that population of approximately 2.5 billion by 2050 would have a demography that says close to, or perhaps 60% of that population will be less than the age of 35. Now, that is a major challenge if the youth are not directed properly, but a major, major opportunity for global growth. Global growth because the next investment opportunity will be Africa. Africa's growth rate of growth in urbanization is faster than anywhere else in the world. Africa's population is probably the youngest in the world. So the market growth is going to be significant. And that is why I would say that Africa is the last investment opportunity in the world. Now, if you also look at the world markets, you've seen less than zero. But yet, from a very low point, Africa's opportunity has a potential to yield a minimum of 5%. And so the African opportunity is real. And Ghana wants to spearhead that drive into making Africa a great opportunity. Now, and with ACFTA, what we are saying is now the largest single market since the WHO formed. And this market is going to be the most potentially vibrant, the youngest, the one with the highest yields, and the one with the highest opportunities. And so Ghana being the driving seat of the AFCFTA definitely does bode well for Ghana and the continent, because we can't fashion an investment for trade policy that will give opportunity to Ghanaians and Africans in the diaspora. I just wanted to say this. Can we go on to the next one? I will just quickly rifle through some of the other opportunities which I didn't speak about. And I'll still jump over this one to the next. And to the next. I just put this graphically just to show what I call Ghana Unleashed. And this is also, like I said, microcosmic of Africa. We have the young, strong people, and I hope this is not taken as very sexist, but somebody asked me, where are the women? And I said, well, the women are at home doing the thinking, and the men are doing the heavy lifting. So women, don't feel left out. You are the ones who are really doing the thinking for us. But this graphically exemplifies a Ghana unleashed in the world today. And it's no wonder that Ghana has emerged as one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It is phenomenally attractive in many ways. And I expect you to actually go closer, take a look, and your investment objectives might be found out. Can we quickly go through the other slides so that we have time for it? So there are other sectors of the market which offer significant opportunities. What I would do, because of time constraints, because I am also very limited in time, and I plead your indulgence, we are actually unleashing the manifesto for the ruling party tomorrow. And so my time is being pulled in different areas. But the presentation will be available to you through the organizers. And the next slides actually highlight quite a number of opportunities. So if you can just go through very fast. ICT is still a major opportunity. Next slide. And of course, with the ICT is telephony, etc., and the fintech industry, which is one of our fastest growing sectors of the economy. Banking and finance is still a great opportunity. Can we go on quickly? And I've actually highlighted some of the actual real opportunities, some ballpark investment that is required in those sectors. Next slide, please. Trade and industry. Because we have the 10-point development and industrial development opportunity and the one district, one factory, there are significant opportunities all across the country. Next slide, please. Here again, you see some of the real examples. So when you have access to the slides, you can actually look at them. Next slide, please. An oil and gas industry, and as you know, Ghana has been an oil and gas producing country since 2011 with significant opportunity in the sectors. Next slide, please. Next slide. And this shows the actual oil deposits and the oil wells that are there and the potential that is in there. This is the offshore map. But the interesting thing is, next slide. If you come onto Ghana's land mass, about 40% of our land mass is projected to have oil. And so we are also exploring this large mass of land and for potential oil production. And there are significant opportunities there in technical service as well as the potential to actually drill for oil. Next slide, please. These are some of the players in the industry. Next slide. Next slide. And energy and power, because energy is crucial. I mentioned it as one of our priority sectors, but we are not just going for any energy. We are looking for sustainable energy and therefore going green. And therefore, we are looking at green projects that will supply energy to the grid and off-grid. And there are many different modulations of the energy sources that we look at. There's solar, there's wind, there's still water, etc., etc. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. And next slide again. Sorry. This is a lot of oil and gas heavy. Then, of course, there's infrastructure and real estate. We are looking to do 4,000 kilometers of new railways, approximately 10,000 kilometers of new roads to make sure that the country is very well connected to support the one district, one factory and planting of food and jobs. So that from farm gate to market and from factory floor to market is efficient and fast. And we are also digitizing the economy to ensure that as much human intervention is removed for efficiency and effectiveness, and to make the market more attractive and to reduce the cost of interventions. Next slide, please.
I'm not on mute.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And pardon me if I am rolling through these, because I think that if you have access to the slide, it will tell you exactly what the opportunity is, and even give you suggestions.
We'll definitely share these slides, Mr. Grant, with the participants this evening. I know that you have a very limited amount of time, so before you log out, we have a couple of very specific questions to you. Would you mind if we just run through them?
Please do.
Okay, fantastic. So from Essie, she's asking whether there are any specific packages or for startup companies. She's actually running a startup cosmetic company, and she'll be very interested in establishing a manufacturing plant in Ghana. She's into skincare and healthcare and hair care products. So in view of what you mentioned about the one district, one factory, maybe we could provide a bit of insight on that.
Sure, yes. The 1D1F policy has on its own a number of incentives to actually stimulate industrialization. But even before the 1D1F, our investment code says that if you're bringing in equipment and for manufacturing, for example, they are duty-free at the ports. Now, if you invest more than $50 million, you qualify as what we call a strategic investor, and you may therefore apply for extra incentives that would ensure that your business remains profitable, etc. But even beyond that, there are certain specific interventions to help startups, like the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Project, which is there to help incubate and support startups and new businesses, and has helped with some interventions. Additionally, government has set aside some significant amount of money to help small startups and businesses. Apart from a government policy that says that if you set up a business, you are less than 35 years old, your tax is set at 5%. You have a tax rebate of 5% to enable you set up and go ahead. So there are quite a number of specific incentives also in all the specific sectors that you can take advantage of. But we are in innovation and startup mode for business. The intention for government is that the private sector will play a much more significant role in the development agenda than government. Government will set the parameters and set the regulatory environment and enable and empower private sector to take advantage of the opportunities to grow. So I hope that answers your question. There is a lot more, and if you want, we can engage offline so that we can help you with your specific requests.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grant. The other question really is coming in around the detail around the opportunities in different sectors. So if an individual was to be coming into Ghana, how do they hit the ground running? I think the GIPC has a very comprehensive website with a lot of information. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, you may. First of all, you can find out the information from the website, but the GIPC is there to hold your hands. I mean, we are in between government and the private sector. And indeed, the GIPC is an office under the presidency. And so very often we actually do give hand-holding services to first-time investors and try and hold their hands to negotiate all the nuances of the market to get their businesses started.
Fantastic. So I think that brings the direct questions to Mr. Grant to an end. I'd just like to say thank you very much for your presentation. It's been massively insightful. I think that the questions will probably keep flooding in, but like Mr. Grant said, there's a lot of information on the website. GIPC are here to hold your hands. I really like the statement he made about retying the umbilical cord, a call for all diaspora to come back to Ghana and reconnect with your roots. And as he just said, GIPC are here to hold your hand. Mr. Grant, I understand that you have another engagement, so we'll permit you to sign out.
Right.
Any final words?
Yes, I would like to say that we actually do welcome and embrace the diaspora to be part of our development agenda and economic growth. And I have to say that this government has taken the import of the diaspora very serious, in the sense that we actually have an office of the diaspora in the presidency. But along that, GIPC in its reform of its laws has actually set up a diaspora desk. And once we have the diaspora policy go through Parliament and activated, we would actually provide services directly and especially to the diaspora. Now, the policy would look at many things that will make it attractive for people in diaspora to come back to the continent and specifically to Ghana to exploit the opportunities for growth and also for businesses. Very often I hear a lot of people in diaspora says, no, we need to come home and help. And sometimes you want to tell them, no, you're not coming home to help. You're coming home to do what is rightfully yours and what the opportunity that you must have taken. And I dare once again say that with what has happened globally over the past few months after Black Lives Matter clearly indicates that this is a continent that is ready to embrace its kith and kin that are spread the world over. And the opportunity is here. The opportunity for growth is here. The opportunity for wealth is here. The opportunity for a good life is here. I mean, most of our countries have 365 days of summer, sunshine, and smiles all over. Why would you be where you are not wanted, when you can be where you actually came from? So I do give a big shout out to all of you in the diaspora. I think Africa is ready, at least Ghana is ready, and we will engage. And by 2021, we would have put in the framework and the architecture to make sure that the diaspora has a smooth sail back home. This time, you will not be forced onto the slave ships. You'll be forced onto tourism, tourist and aggressive business seminars and trips to the continent to see real opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Guan. Another inspiring message from the CEO of GIPC. Thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much. And my apologies that I can't stay with you to the end, but I have a whole bunch of people already waiting to carry me out. So thank you and have a successful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Gadia, we want to thank you too.
Thank you. God bless you all and stay safe.
Thank you. So as Mr. Guan said, I mean, there are a number of initiatives being driven by the current administration, not only to support the diaspora to come back to Ghana, but also to really spur on the private sector. We have a ton of questions here. So Akofa, Mr. Kuston, I hope that you're prepared with your notepads and pens. There's definitely a lot of questions here around the structure of Gadia, but maybe we'll start off with just some general questions around opportunities here in Ghana, then we can get into the more detailed stuff before we wrap up. We are slightly over time, so because we did start a few minutes late, for those of you who are able to stay with us for another 10 minutes, we'll just run through some of these questions. So Akofa, as we were discussing earlier, you spoke about, Ghana being the fastest growing economy, youthful population. We spoke about, opportunities within the agriculture sector, but we didn't really drill down. I mean, what does this mean for the average person, right? It's somebody that's thinking about coming back to Ghana, somebody that wants to invest, their hard-earned monies. What do all of these indicators mean?
Tisha, so the good economic indicators that we've talked about point to the stability in the economy. It points to the fact that if you bring your money here, it won't be lost. You can actually generate more returns from your investments here. And we've seen that almost all sectors of the economy are growing. Yofi has also delved deeply into the various investment opportunities in each sector. And so if you're looking to come back here, invest in Ghana, the GIPC is one sure avenue for you. You can speak to the GIPC to see what support government has available, but there are growth opportunities in all the sectors of the economy, and ideally you all have your various fields of endeavor. So if you're into the health industry, you know better ways of doing things in the health industry, you have your expertise. It's always best to invest in areas where your expertise is, so you can bring on board that expertise. So generally, yes, the economic indicators point to strong growth, stable macroeconomic indicators. There are legislative reforms in place to assure you of the rule of law has also been embraced quite well in Ghana. So the economy is open for business here, I must say.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that clarification. I think at times, you know, there's a lot of hesitance around making such a big transition because there are a lot of unanswered questions, and it's about where to get the information from. So I think we can be comforted by knowing that GIPC has now developed a very comprehensive website with a lot of sectorial information, a step-by-step guide, and they also have a team that can be quite hands-on in terms of answering your direct questions, sector-specific questions, questions around how to mobilize your funds, questions around you know, how particular sectors are developing and growing. So that's quite reassuring. Akofa, another question coming in here, and I'm not too sure if you may have the answer to this, but people are asking about moving funds into Ghana that may have faced some challenges. Can you maybe shed any light on this in terms of if you want to invest as a diaspora? Does the bank have any insights on this at all?
Okay, so as a Ghanaian living in the diaspora, yes, there are diaspora accounts available for you. So in Bank of Africa, we have some diaspora accounts that you can open and operate. You can do short-term investments whilst waiting to set up the business that you want to eventually go into. We have our various desks. We have the corporate banking desk, we have the SME desk available in the bank. So if your business would fall into any of these sectors, so if your business is an SME, the SME desk would be on hand to support you. If it's a bigger business, the corporate desk would also be on hand to support you. So there are accounts available. You can bring your investments into Ghana. If you want to qualify for some of the support, like Yofi said, free clearance of machinery at the ports. Sometimes you need to show proof that your funds have come in foreign currency before, and then you have converted into local currency. So once you can show those proofs, you will be able to access those support in terms of lower tax.
Not to interject, but I just want you to emphasize a little bit more about an SME desk. I mean, what does this mean exactly?
Okay, so SMEs are small and medium enterprises.
Yeah.
So we have specialists in the bank who know a lot about the operations of SMEs. And so we have various loan products geared towards supporting SMEs. We have deposit products geared towards supporting SMEs. So they would be able to advise on which one will be suitable for you depending on the type of business that.
Okay. So essentially, the Bank of Africa has specialists that are able to support business owners in terms of navigating the local terrain, making deposits, accessing finance, et cetera, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you so much, Akofa, for providing a little bit more insight there. So we have a number of questions here around Gadia. Mr. Kustan, are you ready? People are really curious about the structure of this organization, how it's being governed, the decision-making process. My understanding is some of these things are still being ironed out, but maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the vision as to what your expectation is for the governance of this organization.
Yeah, thank you for those questions. Pardon me. I'm going to read a small slide out which I did not put up because of time. Our Gadia Mutual Fund operations. Governance rules will be established for Gadia. An investment policy will govern the types of investment to be made. An investment committee will approve investments. Funds will be held by a trustee bank in Ghana. Funds will be managed by an existing SEC licensed fund manager. Return on investment will be benchmarked against comparable funds in Ghana. The governing structure, oversight of Gadia will be through the governing structures shown in the organogram. Representation of fund members in the governing structure is key, and ultimately all operating structures will report to fund managers. Key functions reporting to the Global Operating and Advisory Board will include accounting and finance, investments, fundraising, membership, publicity, and communication. Country secretariats will be based in countries where members are based and will engage in fundraising activities. The structure may be replicated in non-Ghanaian funds members from similar initiatives for other African countries. So in a schematic term, there's going to be a 12-member governing council. Below that will be Global Operating and Advisory Board for all countries abroad. Then we'll have country secretariats in each of the abroad countries. There'll be a 5-member board for those country secretariat. Then when we come to Africa, we'll have an operating and advisory committee. And this is going to be chaired by one of the persons on board here. I will not name names until you become part of us. And so Ghana is going to be the hub. It's a geographical center. So we want to showcase Ghana, and once it takes forward, then we will spread to West African base and then on to all the African countries. We kind of being biased to Bank of Africa because already they are almost everywhere, 26 are ahead. And I think the name also sounds good for us. And so we'll be using them for now to be our structural base until they no longer need us, so to speak. But we bring in money, so I think they may need us. So it's going to be a win-win situation with them and any other banks that will facilitate the access to Ghanaian market. And most of us are Ghanaians anyway. Of course, some of us are citizens of another country, but still home is home. So we are well-founded, and there's a group right now working with lawyers to make sure the system become institutionalized and move from us as individuals. So I will not have any say until the SEC and bank and the professionals, tax people are in place, and then we, the diaspora, just be off. One of the biggest problems we have in the diaspora is trust. When we institutionalize that, there's not going to be an issue of trust. You have an institution that's operating and competing with the world market.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kustan. our very own chairman. I think that you managed to answer pretty much all of the questions that were popping up through that statement that you just made. So I'm not going to necessarily go through these one by one. I think we've given a bit of a general overview of our expectation and the vision for the governance around the Diaspora Investment Fund. For everybody that has registered for this program, you will be able to get more information as the terms of reference, the investment policy, the government and governance structure is actually developed and finalized by the lawyers. We can send all of that documentation to you. So if you're not a member and you're interested in becoming a member, we can formally engage with you and provide you with all of that information. I think we'd also present an opportunity. I'm going to put into the chat box here that if there are any further questions, that you will be able to address these questions to the Bank of Africa. So I'm just putting into the chat box an email address so that you could address any further questions on either, the activities of GIPC, any of the discussions that's taken place today, the SME desk and the service offering there, the Diaspora Investment Fund. Any questions can be directed to this email address. Sorry. And sorry, I think I may have got the email address incorrect. So just bear with me a second on that. I'm going to correct it. But I think that today's discussions have been extremely inspiring. We've heard about a number of opportunities in Ghana. For all of the Ghanaians on the line, I'm sure you're feeling extremely proud of the developments within your country and excited about the possibility of being able to come back and to make your contribution. I'd also just like to share a very quick, inspiring story of the power of the private sector. I think a lot of times we look to government for development initiatives, but Ghana's private sector recently embarked on an initiative called the Private Sector COVID Relief Fund. And within the space of just a couple of months, we were able to raise $7.5 million to actually build an infectious disease center. Now that center is already up. It's not a plan on it's not an idea on a piece of paper anymore. It's already up, it's being constructed, and it's being utilized at the moment. So I think that's just an example of what can happen when a collective of people come together with the good intentions, with impact in mind, and are willing to contribute to the development of this country. And I see so many other stories like that coming out of this Diaspora investment group. I think the email address has now been corrected. It's m&cc@boaghana.com. So that it's not MXCC, it's M&CC, as in like the sign and, at boaghana.com. The email address is in the chat box. So please do refer to the chat box to pick that up. Please go to the GIPC website for any further information on, I'm seeing questions about the oil sector, I'm seeing questions about the agri sector. There's a ton of information there. It's a very, very easy to use website, so please do refer to that. I think I'll hand over to Mr. Anda. We started with Mr. Anda, so he's going to close us out for today. And I'd just like to say to everybody, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really insightful discussion for me, even though I'm here in Ghana. So I'm sure for you, those of you out there, you've enjoyed it just as much. Akofa, thank you very much for your contributions. Mr. Kusten, thank you for your contributions too. And Mr. Anda, I'll hand over to you to close the program.
Thank you very much, Leticia. It's been an interesting time. I think we've been able to obtain all the information we want. We've been able to stimulate interest. That was the objective that we had in setting this up. It's the first of a series, and I think we've been off to a good start. I would just want to just offer some comfort. I've seen some questions on the banking industry, and I think I cannot but address them. There are fierce people who've lost money in the crisis. And I've seen questions on whether this can happen again and what assurances do we have. I would say broadly, I would say that there is a legislative framework that didn't exist before there is what is called the Deposits Bank and Specialized Financial Institutions Act 2016, which makes sure that there's transparency in the way banks are run, there's discipline, and there's good governance. Most of the banks that were under it happened because there was an overbearing arm of the owners of the bank in the management of the banks. This has been kept. There are limits to how much control the owners can have in the way banks are run. There are very strict reporting regimes. There's more surveillance, more governance. So it's quite unlikely that with the independence of the central bank that we have now, such crisis can reoccur. Also, the new Bank and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act provides remedies and triggers for when the central bank can intervene, and has given the central bank more powers to make sure that they can curb any mismanagement that takes place. So please rest assured that the governance and the rule of law protects you as a customer of banks in Ghana. They're also supporting legislations that make it more safer to bank in Ghana. For example, there is the Deposit Protection Act 2016, which provides some assurance that even if a bank goes under, your deposits to a certain level are safe and will be refunded. So that's the background is there, and I can say that it's quite safe to bank. There was also questions about people who had money locked up. I think the first 6 banks that suffered this were taken into GCB, and a new bank that was formed, that is CBG, that's Consolidated Bank of Ghana. Those banks protected the deposits. That those who had deposits in those banks that went into this, I don't think anybody lost money. They had 1 CD for 1 CD they got in those banks. The second wave, that is for the savings and loans, that has been a bit more complicated because those institutions went under the receiver, and the receiver is trying to get money out of the assets that were locked up and pay back deposits. What I know has happened is that the government has issued bonds. I think these are, is it 5 or 7 year bonds that kind of ensure that you get your deposits back over a period. And you also have the choice or the option to redeem those bonds, but you get 50 P for a CD. That is if you can't wait for the periodic payments that come with those bonds. So I think it's something that happened. It's a bad patch. It happened. We are over it. I mean, the government put in a lot of money. I think at the last count, it's about 20 billion cedis or so that was used to clean up the financial sector. I don't think any government would allow such a thing to happen again. So the last one would be the unregulated institutions. So the likes of Men's Gold. Unfortunately, those institutions were not covered by any regulator because it was an illegal activity. So also we have to be cautious when we are investing. Just like in your home countries, you'll be cautious. The same caution I would advise you heed to when you are investing in institutions in Ghana. So Letitia, with that, I would thank you. I would thank Akofa, brilliant job. Yofi was great. Letitia, as always, you did a great job. I thank all the participants. I think I saw over 100 participants on this webinar. I don't know how many were in the live feed of Facebook. but at the last count, I think we had on like 400 or so. So it's been great. We commit ourselves, Captain, Chairman Houston. I assure you, we are going this long road with you, hand in hand, to make sure that all those brilliant dreams you have, we bring into being. So thank you, everybody. Back to you, Letitia.
Mr. Anda, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to assure everybody that I wasn't swerving the difficult questions about Men's Gold and co, but Mr. Anda is a renowned banker, so I felt that he'll be the best person to respond to all of those questions that were popping up. So that definitely brings us to a close. I would just close out by saying that we have another webinar coming up on the 28th of this month. It's exactly the same time, 6 p.m. GMT. We're going to be talking about tax regimes in Ghana. We're going to be talking about company registrations, and we're going to be talking about the regulatory structure. I know that a couple of those questions came up in the chat box today, but we can't address them today. We're going to address them next week. So please do join us on the next webinar. And once again, thank you all from every single part of the world that has come to be with us this evening. We appreciate your time. Thank you.